How much prep work have you done?
I mean, there's basic preparation, but I think over-preparing and over-rehearsing is the worst thing you can do for a live broadcast.
Where does the social network fall for you?
Welcome to Poker Road Radio.
Thick merge.
Featuring the very best in pokertainment.
I enjoyed the social network.
You're such a humorless Brit.
And you know this!
Can you be influenced by vajayjay? That's the question.
Right. Invariably what happens with guys who get into drugs, it's because of girls.
Oh my god, what should I do?
I do think you just got to go in there and do it.
And now, today's Poker Road host, Joe Stapleton.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Poker Road Radio. Your host today, our poker legend, Barry Greenstein, who right now is wrapping a conversation with Cindy Violette and myself. I'm a guy who thinks a value bet is something you order by number at McDonald's. I am Joe Stapleton. You're a little late that time. And we are coming to you from the 2011 World Poker Tour Los Angeles Poker Classic. Play has ended here on day 2, which means that if you want to start beating the traffic to get here for tomorrow, I suggest you leave now to get here for day 3. We got a great show for you guys today. We've got poker legend Barry Greenstein. As I said, he's going to help us recap some of this tournament, what he's been up to lately. We're going to touch on some of the big stories going on in the poker world right now. The poker beat doesn't exist anymore, so we're going to cover some of that stuff here on Poker Road Radio. We're going to be joined by special guest Joseph Chong, who's going to be here. And right now we've got a special bonus guest. Kara Scott is here.
Hello.
Kara, I'm super excited. Here, let's pull that microphone closer in. Yeah,
Sorry,
right?
I was eating a sandwich.
That's okay. And for those of you who don't know Kara Scott, or all you know of her is from television, I don't want to put her on blast, but she's not a hostess in real life, in IRL. She is like a dude, basically. Kara Scott right now is drinking a beer, eating a pulled pork sandwich.
Yeah.
You are using a fork, though, which I guess sort of is a little dainty.
I'm doing an interview.
Right. She's doing that for my benefit.
I didn't want to get it all over your microphone.
But, yeah, Kara Scott is basically a guy. She's like the coolest chick ever, is what I'm finding out.
Nice.
I promised her we would talk a little bit about poker, and then we would get to some fun stuff. Kara, talk about play today. You're playing this 10K event, and you made it through day 2.
I did. I made it through day 2. That's like the most exciting thing I can say about the whole day because it was really boring. And by the end, I thought I might be asleep. I thought I might have fallen asleep, and I was dreaming the same hands over and over again. It was that bad. But I ended with, I've got 34 big blinds coming into day 3. It was an interesting enough table. I had Dwight Pilgrim at my table.
He's hot right now.
Yeah, he was. And I still can't decide whether or not he bluffed me in a big pot earlier today.
Tell us the pot. What happened?
No, I'm not going to do it.
You don't want to say?
I'm not going to do it.
34 big blinds, not so bad. So you were card dead today, is what you're saying.
I was pretty card dead. Yeah, I was pretty happy with one little move I made against. Now I don't know if I can say it right. Matt Sowers or Matt Sowers.
I don't know who.
He's awesome. He's a great player. He really is very, very good.
But not so great that you can't make a move on him.
Well, he was surprised. I don't think he believed me. I told him at the end of the day what I had. He asked me, and because I raised under the gun with 6s, and he called, and then. Lucky Chewy was sitting directly to his left, and he raised, and I shoved, and they both folded, and yay, I got some chips. Then I, leaked them all away through the rest of the day, but whatever.
When you shove in a spot where I'm guessing you probably didn't want to get called with the 2 6s.
Probably not, but I think it's pretty player dependent as well.
Of course, but you'd more than likely just rather take it down right there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not looking to that's not like a value shove.
Right. What are you doing? What are you doing body language wise? What do you do when you're in a huge decision situation? Do you try to put off reverse tells? Are you just sit as still as possible?
Generally, especially against players who played that much.
Yeah.
These guys have played just huge amounts. Even live, they play a lot, not just online.
Yeah.
So, I'm not trying to put off reverse tells or anything. I think they could probably see through that. I think I look nervous most of the time.
Right, whether you have it or you don't, right?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. So I just sit there. I usually have, my hand up over my face, kind of not like peekaboo, but, just over my mouth so I'm not giving too much away, and I'm staring at the table, and I'm not talking, and I'm not trying to, I don't know. I know a lot of players are good at that, talking people around to get them to do something or to get information, but I feel like I give more away, so I just stay pretty quiet.
Fantastic. Barry, feel free to join us right now. Barry's throwing on the headset.
The beautiful Kara Scott, I recognize her.
Yeah, Kara.
It's nice to see you again.
Kara Scott is rad. Kara, what are all your jobs right now? What do you want people to know you for? What are you plugging? Who are you?
Well, I've got sort of two major hats, or maybe three major hats. So the first hat is that I'm an ambassador for Party Poker, and that means that I do all their TV stuff, and I host their stuff and I play, and I'm here playing for them as well, which is great. The second thing that I do, and these are not in order of importance.
Right, just as order of you think of them.
Is I the host at WPT
Actually, could you order them in importance?
No.
Yeah,
No.
please don't.
They are all together exciting. I host the WPT in Europe. So I go over there and host the European events. And then last but, as I said, not least, because this is super exciting, is that I'm co-host for GSN's High Stakes Poker, which is premiering tonight, or premiered tonight. I was playing, so I didn't get to see it. So the
Really?
first
I didn't even know that. The first episode and the first episode. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Today, it was tonight.
When you say you're co-hosting, who are you co-hosting with?
Norm MacDonald.
So you guys are in the booth together?
No, I've still got the same role.
Got it. You're on camera. He's in the booth.
Yeah.
Norm's solo in the booth.
Yeah. So we just kind of cross paths while we're walking into the booth and out of the booth for.
Have you heard anything?
Stuff.
Have you heard what Norm's done so far?
Yeah, he goes, this hand's worth about as much as a couple of crack whores.
Yeah, right. That's what I expected.
That's about it.
I like Norm personally.
Yeah.
He's a funny guy.
Yeah,
I thought they
great.
made a good choice taking over for Gabe. Obviously, I think most of the poker world really like Gabe.
Absolutely.
So he's, it's hard. Hard shoes to fill. To fill it, it'd be much better if you take over for Stapes on the big game. But
I took it as a compliment.
What a look you gave me for that.
Well, I don't know how you can tell
really
it's dark in here. We're actually doing this interview completely in the dark. And speaking of the dark, this is what I really wanted to talk to Kara about. Was that Kara? I had a conversation with her at Bellagio in December, and since then, everything I've watched on Netflix or read has been a result of that conversation. Kara's obsessed with zombies, Barry.
I am a little.
And all we did was talk about zombies for 90 minutes at the last WPT event I was at. And I read World War Z in the meantime. I don't know if you read that or not. And you mentioned earlier how Canadians were likely to solve the zombie attack.
No, well, we were to survive. I mean,
right.
We have a big empty country, and it's cold, which would slow them down.
And that's a huge part of the book is that all these people flee to Canada because the zombies literally freeze.
Yeah, I don't think I love living in America. I don't want to step on any toes, but I don't think we want all of you guys in our country. I'm sorry. Close the border.
I don't want most Americans in America, so I can only imagine.
They've gotten so lousy at the borders lately in the last few years that we couldn't get there anyway. They stopped and ask you all these ridiculous questions now.
Yeah, even
they were happy to see you go across the border.
Yeah, both ways I think it's gotten
Ever
really
since
tough.
the Canadian dollar got to be worth more than the American dollar, that's when the whole thing started.
We're basically Canada's Mexico is the problem. They don't want
a zombie attack.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, you guys are going to try.
Now, you have a plan in place for a zombie attack?
Yeah, I mean it depends on where I am at the moment in time. I mean it's a multi-pronged plan. If there's water around, obviously you get in a boat. Also, zombies can't climb, and I don't know why. I was watching the Walking Dead, which is a great show.
Okay, so that's the other thing I wanted to mention is that today on Amazon, as per our conversation, I have The Walking Dead saved in my DVR, and I decided, you know what? I still bought it on Amazon, the Blu-ray set. I haven't watched it yet, so that's on its way too.
Well, no spoilers, but they never get on a roof. Why don't they ever just get up on a roof to go to sleep?
Because then there'd be no story.
Well, yeah, but
maybe they haven't figured that out yet. Maybe that's going to be...
But actually, that Canada thing, one of the disaster movies, remember there was a disaster and all, I don't know if it's tsunami or whatever, where everyone's saying, trying to flee to either Mexico or Canada, and they say Mexico's closed their borders. And, it became a pretty funny thing, and Canada's closed their borders. They're not letting Americans escape into their country. It was
I could see Kara Scott sitting at the border with a shotgun, shooting both zombies and Americans alike as they try to pour through.
Can she see Russia from a rooftop?
No, that's just from Alaska. Only from Alaska. And then also I started on your recommendation watching Death Comes to Town.
Yay!
Because I was a huge Kids in the Hall fan when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And I will say this, I don't love it.
Oh.
I love seeing them. And it's
fun, though,
it's
right?
really
Very
fun.
Nostalgic.
It's super nostalgic, but it's not laugh out loud for me just yet. I've only 3 episodes into it. I'm hoping that maybe it picks up a little bit. But you obviously
I really liked it.
Regard it a little higher.
Yeah, I think it is so much part. Oh, sorry, Barry.
This is interesting, but I still want to. Can I cut in?
Please.
Go back to high stakes poker.
Yeah,
because
sure,
the question that everyone's asking really is, I know I talked to Norm about poker about 3 years ago. He's pretty much of a novice, and the big question is, does he even have a clue?
I have not been in the booth. I'm going to guess that he does. I've read some stuff, some quotes that he's given, because I've not really talked to him a huge amount about this, because, like I said, we kind of cross paths.
Different schedules,
walk in and out of the booth. So we've actually only met the once.
Well, I know Maury and Eric will be helping him somewhat on the
yeah.
poker side, and Maury already told me he's got some really funny lines that are going to fit in. So I think everyone understands from the comedic side, he's going to throw in some memorable lines.
I think so. I think
but
as well,
you
it's
still
such high-level
want,
poker.
Unfortunately, I think most people want two men in the booth, or women.
Two people, two human beings,
No,
as long as they're not two zombies.
Yeah, no, they would have been happier, I think, if you were in the booth with them. Because on the
some
poker
people,
side,
yes, some
but
people no.
GSN's calling the shots.
Do you have
on
a
that.
desire to be in the booth?
I think that would be totally sticking my head above the parapet, and I'm not sure I'd be.
What's a parapet again?
I think so.
That's like the top of a chapel. Is that what a parapet is?
like
or what is it?
I don't want to become a target. Is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, you kind of open
I'm
yourself
not
up a little bit
poker
more.
Expert either, so it'd be a matter of having one expert in the booth. Who
Well,
would that be?
Stapes
then?
opened
Guess what,
himself.
Kara? I'm not a poker. I'm not a poker
Stapes
expert.
has done a great job, and we have a guy who does some poker road stuff, who's become a poker policeman. And
He's my coach.
We would.
that's awesome.
He works
Yeah.
pretty cheap. I mean, they don't always pay him actually. So
Jeez.
Yeah, no.
I'm sure he
Dude
would
is
help
awesome,
out.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really
He's
good at it.
actually, I mean, really, they were going to make him Man of the Year with time because he actually made it look like Stapleton knew something about poker.
Yeah, so that's
It was an
clearly
amazing
better than
accomplishment.
anything else going on. I promised Kara I wouldn't keep her too long. Kara, anything that you want to plug really quickly before you go? Your website, your blog, your Twitter, Party Poker.
Well, I Twitter at Kara OTR, which is Kara on the Rail, which is an old
Thank you. I was going to ask you about
podcast
that.
I do with Nick Wellthall. We haven't updated in ages because I moved away. I'm a splitter, apparently.
Yeah, where do you live these days?
Santa Barbara.
Oh, fun.
So I live in
Nice.
your fair country after all those horrible comments I made about closing Canada down.
Didn't Santa Barbara rank as like one of the best places to live or happiest cities?
believe
I think it
it.
ranked as like the happiest city.
When it's not on
I
fire.
totally believe it. Well, yeah. Even then, it's a warm glow.
Even then, there's less traffic than LA. I'll take the fire.
It's a beautiful place, and I love it. So, yeah, that's awesome. I blog over at Party Poker, and I blog at Card Runners as well. And, I'm not sure where the WPT European events are going to be airing over here, but when they do, I'll obviously put those up and post the dates and the times and the stations. And GSN, high stakes poker.
All right, perfect. Kara Scott, thanks a lot for being here. We appreciate it. Anytime you want to come by and co-host for a whole episode, you're more than welcome.
Thanks.
We appreciate it, Kara. Right now, we got to take a break, but when we get back, we're going to have lots more stuff. Poker Road Radio, back after this. Welcome back to Poker Road Radio, coming to you from the LAPC 2011 World Poker Tour event, part of their awesome new season on the World Poker Tour. Right now, we're very lucky to be joined by third-place finisher in this past year's World Series of Poker main event, Joseph Chong. Joe, thanks for being here, man.
No, thanks for having me.
Now, Joe, I sort of double-booked a little bit. He's very gracious, went away for a few minutes while we talked to Kara, and then I just stupidly screamed across the tournament area to him to come on over here in the midst of a WPT interview, and I feel like a complete asshole.
Jason has enough interviews. I don't think it matters.
I don't feel so bad for Jason, but just for like production people, they're like, "What the fuck are you doing, Stapleton?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, it's the first time I've ever done something like that in like 10 years in show business." So, but I feel like an asshole. Anyway, Joe, thanks for being here, man. Thanks for
No
sticking
problem.
around. We appreciate it. Barry, you were chomping at the bit to talk to Joe before he sat down. Now go ahead and ask your
We played
questions.
together in the last tournament, the first tournament I saw him at besides the World Series of Poker. And as I remember,
Five Diamond Classic.
he 7-bet shoved and got snap called by 2 jacks. And, I sometimes, a lot of times I'll make bluffs and it'll be just a mundane 3-barrel bluff or something like that. That's like, and then I'll say, well, I'm glad I did. The guy had to make a tough call. I can sleep at night. I'd have felt worse if I didn't make that bet and saw the guy just had second pair and I felt like I could have gotten him off it. Joseph, when I've talked to him, always said, I still feel good about that play, which is a good thing to have confidence in that. But his bluffs are like mine on steroids. So
I would say like
so
on
what hand did you
steroids and then like in a nuclear reactor.
So what hand did you 7-barrel this time?
Actually, this is the first 10K that I haven't 6-bet or 7-bet my way out of since the World Series. Today, I started off with a big stack, 80K, 200 big blinds, and just...
How'd you get the big stack yesterday?
I ran really good, flopped a lot of straights. People pay me off left and right now. One type of hand is really easy to get paid off these days.
So people are paying you off simply based on the one play from the World Series of Poker, or is it from other things they know about you as well?
I think it has to do with also has to do with the fact that I'm like young and Asian, maybe.
Right. You never have it. Young Asian guys never have it.
I think young more than Asian. Asian's just for driving.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm
The
definitely
combination is deadly, though.
Right.
yeah. I'm definitely less likely to believe an Asian person or a young person, and both is just forget about it. You
And
never
I
have
play
it.
a lot of pot, so when I do have it, people just tend not
Yeah.
to believe
Now,
me.
one of the things I've always seen in some young players who got to be pretty good players, like Phil Ivey and Patrick, and even myself when I was young, is the leap I see them get over is first they're just putting pressure on everyone, and of course at the smaller level people can't handle the pressure, and they fold amazing things.
Yeah. all day.
Eventually, you get to the level where you say, this guy's just calling me down, and this guy isn't, and you know who to do it. And that's kind of, I mean, you look like a good player when I played with you. I know you're a good player, but where do you feel you are in live poker? It's a little different than online. Where do you think you are as far as that level of maturity of your poker game is?
Maybe even like past that almost, because
Well, you weren't the last time I played with you. The last time I played with you, you were just balls out. I'm going to try to make this guy have to make the call.
But that was 4 months ago.
that was 4 months.
Well, I mean,
Seriously.
if you remember, it was there was a kid to my right who was really aggressive, and I was just playing pots with him left and right. He was min 3-betting you every single time you opened. Mm-hmm. He's a
Barry's like, oh, I wish I had noticed that.
Right.
and he's a really really good online player. So there's like certain types of people I'll go all out against, and I'll pick my targets well. I mean, hopefully well.
Yeah, I think I do remember that guy. It was he min 3-bet almost every pot he played, right? Yeah, that was a weird guy. Yeah,
I think literally every time you opened, he min 3-bet you.
Right. Yeah, no, I remember exactly. And
I min 4-bet
and of course
times.
Yeah, of course I never had anything. Although that's right. And I remember we played a big pot where you ended up making a straight. Remember, you had king queen, and you guys won a bunch of bets, and you ended up making the nuts.
Oh, did I? I don't
I
remember.
won a big pot before you.
Nobody
ended up
remembers the
bluffing
hands
it
they
up.
won.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you won that one, but then you got up to a lot of chips, and then they all went away.
I do remember there were 3 hands in a row in like one orbit against me and him, where he 3-bet you, and I just played pots with him, and I called him down with ace high, king high, and queen high, and I was good all 3 times.
Wow.
I remember one time I had 5s or 6s, and I think I took a flop for the 4-bet, but then you guys knocked me out, and they would have been good. Or I could have shifted. Actually, I think that's the hand you mentioned, but I could have shifted and got you guys out.
I just feel like it's really easy to target a lot of randoms, I guess, that don't play a lot of poker, because you can just in general see how they play and do that. But against good players that are really balanced their range, it kind of almost becomes a gamble, because you're balancing your range and they're balancing their range, and you just got to hope that you're good.
How long does it take you to size up a random?
Well, just by the looks, you can size them up pretty easily, I feel like.
Like when they're old and...
Exactly.
Yeah.
When they're wearing a Commerce hat, jacket, and socks?
Yeah, or they're Asian, and I know right away they're gonna love to see flops with lots of suited hands and connected hands. But
see, he's got his little stereotypes as well.
Yeah, it always throws me off though when like I have a stereotype for someone and they play the complete opposite, like an old guy playing like a young online kid. Then
like Dan
they just-
Heimiller,
exactly.
betting with nothing and always raising.
Like people like that really throw me off, because I can see them and I have a certain, expectation of them, and they're completely different.
But yeah. I guess Vanessa Selbst, woman-type player, doesn't work together.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the short hair is a bit of a
Yeah,
giveaway.
she gives it away. That's right. She should be dressed a little more feminine, and maybe she'll get people fold.
You mentioned in that Bellagio tournament you had a lot of chips and ended up being out. Today you had a lot of chips. You mentioned coming into day 2. You went broke about 30 minutes before the end of the day.
Uh-huh.
How did we come to that point?
It was just a long, slow descent. It was a roller coaster, actually. I started with 80. I dropped down to 40 right away. I forgot what happened, but
You just blacked it out. It's just completely repressed memory.
yeah, just so many hands throughout the day. And I was back up to 120 at one point, and now I'm out. So
What was your bust out hand?
I had 40 big blinds left. I opened 2 5s, 2 red 5s on the gun.
Oh, red ones.
Yeah. And,
Well, I'm guessing the foreshadowing of red may have something to do with
Exactly.
later in the story.
And the big blind flats, it was his second or third hand at the table.
Was he a big blind defender, this guy? Or
It was his first big blind. He
Oh,
just got there.
That's
with
so
no real
brutal when
info.
people just get to the
Seemed
tail.
like a young guy, sunglasses, baseball cap. Flop comes 2, 3, 4, all clubs. And he check raises me, like pretty much committing. And to be honest, I was just kind of over it today, 'cause I got it in, and he had 9, 10 of clubs, drawn dead. Basically dead.
Pretty dead.
Yeah. I had a couple other hands today. You know Phil Collins?
I've heard
I
the
played
name.
with him yesterday.
Yeah.
Nice kid.
He opened. I had like 90K at 400, 800. He had like 50.
Mm-hmm.
He raised under the gun. I flatted middle position with 4-9 of spades.
Of course.
Only because he was kind of tight and he hadn't been
Yeah.
playing too many hands. And I figured if I
Yeah, he's a pretty solid player.
yeah, if I smashed the flop, I would probably stack him.
Uh-huh.
Flop comes King 9-4, but he had fours.
Oh,
So that's how I
yikes.
lost about a little over half my stack. That was down to like 50 again from 100.
So
one thing calling it 9-4 of spades, which I don't do, is
yeah, right,
is-
Barry.
is-
He's just saying
is
that
no-
on the air now.
No, it's one of the things I know you're, like I said, you're a strong, no limit player. I don't know how much cash you play, but these tournaments start
Next to
getting
none.
shorter stacks, and it becomes like a hybrid between limit and limit, where there is some. I mean, when I was your age, I played mainly no limit cash, so I'd play any two cards.
Yeah.
Just for the reason you're saying, I could take pots away, do whatever I want. But tournaments, you still, I think, playing any two cards once you get under 100 big blinds, you're losing something because now it's closer to limit poker.
Yeah, there's a certain level, or I guess threshold, where I'll slow down and start playing tight.
I haven't seen it.
I usually
Speaking of
buzz
which-
before I get there. So.
Right. Speaking of which, how many people have said dude, why did you get all in with that hand where the guy had the two queens, where you could have waited and played the guy head up, where you were a better player and could have?
Yeah, I would
beat
like to know this. Like, give us a real estimate on the number of times you've been asked
Number
that.
of times I've been asked that.
or told that.
Probably well over 200 different people.
200
Have
different people?
family members told your parents he could have won the thing?
Even my dad asked me right afterwards what I was thinking. So
Yeah, because I had even the year before. Eric Buckman was chip leader at one point, was doing real well, and I played bridge online, and so his dad got on my table intentionally say, did Eric make the wrong play getting all in with ace queen?
Wait, on Yahoo, like his dad.
It's
got
like
it-
that, but it's bridge, and his dad asked. So it's like when those things happen, people come out of the woodwork in the family who obviously mostly barely play poker,
Yeah.
but they're very opinionated, and I'm sure you've gone through that too, where they're telling your parents, your son just blew $6 million or whatever that he could have won.
definitely. But they don't really mind. I mean,
Well, your parents seem real supportive. I saw them there, and
yeah, and my mom
yeah.
actually has no clue how to play poker. She doesn't even know hand rankings and things like that. So she had no clue.
right.
It was only my dad stressing over it a little bit.
The only question I'll ask you specifically about that hand is, do you stand by it? Do you stand by the play?
Yes and no. I mean,
Without playing results, without playing like the guy happened to have two queens.
Well, yes and no, because given the history we had, I thought I would stand by my spot. But I did see some broadcasts, like Hans broadcasted, and Duhamel, he was 3-betting a lot the whole time.
Right.
But on the broadcast, he just had ace, king, and aces like every single time.
Right, so it's a little unfair if you're just watching the television coverage. You're like, this guy's always got a hand.
Exactly, yeah. So,
Well, one of the
That kinda
things,
changed
one
it.
of the things you got to answer. How many times did you make plays like that got you to where you made the final table? That's what people always forget.
Right.
It's like very easy to select the times that it doesn't work.
It didn't work, right.
And then all that raw aggression is what allowed you to get a hold
yeah,
of a big check.
well, I mean, you know
chip
how I
stack.
play,
Yeah,
so
right.
I was probably doing that a couple times.
And you had some bad beats before the final table, or you'd have been the chip leader anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it certainly looked like you were the best player, and I have a feeling you felt like that too. Although it did look, when we saw the broadcast, actually the broadcast made you not look as good
Yeah,
as you
I-
looked without the whole card. Because a lot of times you were aggressive, but you hit. You made two pair on
Yeah,
one hand.
exactly.
So everyone said this guy played great, which again I know you're a good player. I'm not taking away, but you did actually have
a
some
lot
good
of
luck.
stuff.
You hit
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of stuff too.
You know, Joe, I wanted you. Everyone calls you Joseph. Do you go by Joe ever?
They call me Joe or Joseph. I
Okay.
don't really care either way.
You know, a lot of people's opinions, including Barry, was that you played the best at the final table, and that you were
Thank
maybe
you.
even the best player heading into the final table. We did a show on the dinner break for the final table, and Barry was like, Joe Chong, he's playing the best. How do you feel about that? Do you agree? And it's okay to say yes without necessarily sounding like a cocky asshole.
I thought Duhamel was playing really well, but other than that, I thought everyone else was
it was
playing.
real clear that Joseph was playing with a lot of confidence, that he felt that he was, just like he's saying, in his words, going to smash people and they aren't going to be able to stand up to it.
Yeah, and I mean, people were coming over from all the other rails and telling me I was playing the best, which was kind of awkward, but
Which a lot of people don't understand. That was your first televised final table. And for anyone, I was a very experienced poker player. It takes an adjustment. Because
It gets inside your head, right, Barry?
Because initially, the first thing you're saying is, his mom and dad are there, family. You don't want to look stupid. Nobody
Exactly.
wants to look stupid.
especially when it's going to be on ESPN every single night.
Right. So
in every bar you're ever in.
Exactly.
So what he did to still play his game and do that shows a lot of maturity, because the one thing that gets you as a good player to be able to make those plays is when you first have the realization those other people aren't going to be able to take that exposure pressure of being there first. They're going to tighten up. They're going to be afraid to do anything. And even for myself, like I said, the first time, it took me 10 or 20 minutes to say, hey, I better not play tight, because that's what they're doing. I've got to take them off their hands.
I did notice I was getting a lot more respect with my raises.
And you snapped to it. I mean, you were there. You were in the zone. You were there ready to play. And I guess if the guy had never picked up a big pair, you'd have probably gone through to the end.
Kimberly, it's okay if you want to scream into my interview now. I'm mortified. I'm so embarrassed. Okay. Sorry, guys.
It's only fair.
I'm so embarrassed. That's something Joe Stapleton has never meant.
I did mean it in this case. Anyway, sorry to interrupt. I just interrupted our interview with that, so I'm kind of fucking it up again. Joe, why is it do you think that November 9ers so often have big scores in between that main event break or right after? I mean, you won a 5K at Bellagio during that break. Do you think everyone who's at that final table is just on a hot streak? I mean, there's always a bunch of guys.
Do they usually do that? I never really watched the World Series before this year, so...
Yeah, it's always either right after someone will make a WPT final table, right after the main event, or during the break.
It's probably just the confidence, I'm guessing. I mean, I feel like a big part of poker is confidence and going with your reads.
Well, there's another reason, because these people are out there playing events. They wouldn't have been there. It's people who have money and do well.
Right, you're guaranteed X amount of dollars.
So they always say, look at that guy made the money or made the final table 2 or 3 times out of 5. Well, yeah, because if he wouldn't have made the money or made the final table the first time, he wouldn't even play.
He would be playing, exactly.
All right, well, that's a logical answer. Thanks, Barry.
Right. But it doesn't hurt.
The voice of reason.
Yeah, and you won an event, right? Before and after.
I won a 5K prelim at the Bellagio. I chopped one of their 1K rebuys, and I got second in the high roller at EPT London.
Yeah, so that's pretty.
So, it's been a good run last year. This year hasn't been that great, but.
How many years have to go by before someone can start complaining? And I don't think it's less than a year. I don't think you can say this year hasn't been that great. It's still all one big long year.
Exactly.
Wait! I have one more thing.
Yeah, sure, Barry.
How hungry are you? Because last year you kind of gave off the vibe like it's not that important to me.
Sorry.
If I do okay. If I don't, it's not going to change my life. And so that's a big part of doing well in tournaments too, is the hunger.
I mean, it's kind of different. It doesn't mean I didn't want to win. I wanted to win. It's just. It won't hurt me as much to lose as other people.
No, I know financially, but you have that competitive drive. Do you want to prove something in poker? Do you feel like you want to show who you are?
Not really. I don't really care what other people think, but I do want to win.
I'm not saying to them.
No, Barry, and I kind of have to. I would typically think that answer is bullshit, but he says not really. And one of the questions I was going to ask him is that he grinds all these little tournaments online. I mean, I'd say mid stakes tournaments online, and you have all these 5-figure scores in them, and you'd think that there are a lot of people who have a big score like you in the World Series of Poker, and then all of a sudden they're playing on high stakes poker and they're playing only high roller events, and you're grinding out those small events. For you, it's just about racking up scores for you.
I just really enjoy playing, and I really enjoy the competition. So.
Well, don't you notice that it is more fun to win than come in third place? I mean, you've not won some. When you win, you don't have to think about the stupid hand you played that you could have played, because all sins are forgiven.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess
because it's all on the path to victory, is what you're saying.
Well, you won. It's not even a chaos thing where maybe if you didn't do that dumb thing, you wouldn't have won. It's more like, well, there's no reason to second guess myself anymore. I got all the chips. But anytime you don't win, then it's like if I'd have done this different, if I'd have done that different,
exactly.
I might have won it instead.
Well, I'd rather when I wanted to 6-bet, I did it. If I ended up folding and it turned out I could have 6-bet him out, that would probably affect me a lot more.
Forever.
You'd be more upset than what actually did happen.
Exactly.
Right?
I understand that whole concept, because I used to, like I say, I remember where some guy called me for, we're the 2 chip leaders with bottom pair, and my girlfriend said, "How could you be second in chips and go out?" And I said, now that I saw his hand, if I hadn't fired all in on the, I'd fire, check raised him on the turn and shipped on
and
the
then
river,
you found out he had bottom
I would have
pair.
been able to sleep forever over this hand. I'd always been saying I would have won that pot if I had gone with my read.
Yeah, if you didn't do that and you busted, you'd be thinking, what if I had done
It's
that?
kind of like when you read your way into a choose your own adventure and you realize both choices, you end up in the pit. You know what I mean? You got to go back a few more steps and figure out where you went wrong. It's
So in some
not
sense,
that one choice.
In some sense, Joseph sleeps well at night knowing that he didn't dog it.
Yeah, absolutely. He was true to himself.
Right.
What's the best thing about finishing that deep? What has been the best thing about it?
The money.
The money, okay. So other than the money, like, just... do you like the exposure? Do you like being on TV? Do you like wearing a patch?
I'm really...
Yeah,
I don't really
Don't you
mind
think
either
there's
way.
got to be some value?
I love it. Unaffected.
In the respectability to your family and not even your immediate, but outside your relatives, that kind of gives an air of respectability of what you do for a living.
Yeah.
That if you don't when you do something like that, you no longer have to answer the questions that Joseph's a smart kid. Why isn't he an investment banker or whatever they wanted you to be?
Yeah, I mean, it does kind of like prove to them that I could do this for a living, but at the same time it shouldn't, because it's just only one tournament. But to the average person, it's like, oh, one big tournament, that means you're doing well.
Yeah, they can no longer say he could be making $40,000 a year doing this. Yeah.
So the best thing about it, finishing that deep, was the money. What's been the worst thing about finishing that deep?
The worst thing?
I mean,
maybe all the questions about the ace-7 hand, maybe?
Yeah, all the women throwing themselves at him. I think that's it's hard to.
Has that been happening? Have you been getting women throwing themselves at you?
I wouldn't say that.
Has it gone up a little bit?
Well, I really didn't go out much before that because I was just trying to build on my bankroll online. So maybe it's like both. But yeah, when I do go out, I feel like I get a lot more attention than I used to.
Are you a spender when you go out? Do you do bottle service and party with the big boys?
I don't like clubbing all that much, but when I do go out, yeah, my friends always want to get a table and bottle service and things like that.
I remember when I first had money, the girls would say, like, you got a lot of class, which I took to meant that you're not that good looking. but
you have
we
money.
know you got money. You getting some of those? No. Well, you're a good-looking kid, so you probably don't have that problem.
I haven't heard anyone tell me I had a lot of class yet.
Yeah, right.
That's good. Yeah,
or any girls at least.
Right.
No girls have accused you of having any
I've
class.
had a lot of middle-aged Hispanic male fans.
Well,
Interesting.
that's,
Okay.
Interesting. You're a cute young Asian boy. No.
Now, Joe, you said you live 10 minutes away from here. You're originally from La Mirada.
No, that's where my parents moved to after I graduated from high school.
Where are you from?
Palos Verdes.
Oh, that's where Barry lives.
Yeah.
And
I went to high school with his daughter-in-law, it sounds like.
With Tina? Daughter-in-law, my stepdaughter.
Stepdaughter,
yeah,
sorry.
Tina, that's right. She's, what, 25?
Okay, I'm 24, so
Tina-
Palos Verdes Peninsula High School.
Tina's a babe, huh? Tina's not bad.
I've never seen her.
Oh, you've never
I
seen
have to
her?
go back and look at the yearbook now.
By the way, that's intentional.
What's that? It's intentional that she's a babe?
Kept her away from Joe's. Actually, a couple of Joes. I definitely kept her away from Stapleton. Actually, I haven't done that good a job.
Yeah, you've
I mean,
big time fail there,
I
Barry.
panicked the one day she said, he's got a really nice sense of humor. And I went into a panic mode.
I was like, I got her. One last thing I wanted to ask. Well, does this tournament mean anything more to you since it's sort of your hometown, or are you unaffected by that as well?
Not because it's my hometown, but because
money. Because it's a big tournament.
It's a big tournament with a lot of good players. It'd be nice to win something like this.
But what are you needling him? Needling him now that he's out?
No, not at all. Not at all. When I wrote that question, he was still in, actually. I just didn't really modify it for him going out. One last thing. This WSOP final table reunion at Foxwoods that Bernard Lee put together, was that fun? Was that a good time?
It was pretty fun.
It was kind of a pain in the ass to haul over to Connecticut. Foxwoods is one of the least fun casinos I've ever been to. So
yeah, there's really nothing around there. The first couple of days was fun. We went to the Celtics Magic game and the bowling alley, the club there. But after about 4 days, I really wanted to get out of there.
Oh man, 4 days at Foxwoods.
Yeah, I don't really like staying in casinos anywhere, so it just tires me out really fast.
Did you go to Mohegan Sun while you were there?
No, actually.
Because that's a real pretty casino. That may
I
be
saw
the prettiest
him
casino in
there.
the world.
But
Yeah.
Bernard had some prelims every single day he wanted us to play. So.
Actually, I just thought,
wow, he put you to work, huh?
One other question that I know you get asked, and people attributed you saying, I'd be more happy to come in second so I don't have to deal with the ambassadorship and all the stuff that goes along with it.
Yeah.
And then people speculated, well, that's part of the reason that he played the A7
Oh, you mean
hand.
in the commercial?
Whatever, I don't know about, but whatever. Your
pre-interviews, I think you said that.
Your pre-interviews, people were saying, well, he just didn't even care that much.
Well, actually, I've been asked that a lot, and it's because there was a Full Tilt commercial I did where I said that. But it was actually like an inside joke I had with my friends. They just hate it when I say that, so I wanted to say it on TV.
Okay.
Yeah.
Level,
Okay,
big
so
time
now
level.
we got that you wanted to win. You were
Oh,
doing
of
what you
course I
could to
wanted
win.
to win, yes.
Well, I know that, but people were saying he didn't. He said he didn't.
Yeah, and that's what other people think. I would have gotten $10 million from Full Tilt, and they're like, "Why didn't you think about that?"
Well,
Yes, you know what? I
it
did
is
hear
worth-
that rumor
truthfully-
that there was an extra $10 million at stake.
Yeah,
Was
if
that
you satellite
not? Is
in
that
for-
not true?
Oh, yeah, if you satellite in for Full Tilt and won, they give you $10 million a year for 10 years. But
winning the main event is probably worth an extra $10 million over the long run of what you'll get because
Yeah.
you're pretty much these days set for life.
Sure, but that was like another $10 million. on
as for
top.
that one deal, I did satellite in 3 or 4 times, but they send you an email and they ask you, do you want to play for Full Tilt or do you just want cash? And I took cash every single time, so I wasn't really qualified for that.
Got it. You took the cash and then used that or some of your
I
other millions
I
of
probably
poker
lost it
winnings.
all online playing other games.
Got it. Perfect. Well, Jill, that's all we've got for you. Sorry about this tournament, but thanks for stopping by with us. We
No
really
problem.
appreciate it. Good luck to you in the future. I'm glad we got to know each other a little bit because you're a lot different than the guy. I'd only heard the stories of this and that and other things. So we appreciate you stopping by. Good luck in the future, my friend.
All right, thanks, Dan.
All right, buddy.
Good.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Poker Road Radio. Coming to you from the LAPC. That's the Los Angeles Poker Classic, in case you're wondering. It is a World Poker Tour event. Before we get to this segment right now, it's actually my favorite part of the show. We've got waiting in the wings. We've got BJ Nemeth and Jessica Wellman from World Poker Tour. Barry's still here, of course. We're going to go over all the day one action that we missed yesterday, day two today. But also, I just wanted to mention that the WPT this season is kick-ass. They've got some really great additions to the show. Tony Donaldson, the Raw Deal being one of them. They got the new graphics. They got the 4-color decks, right?
Yep.
And I was so jealous of the 4-color decks that I suggested on the big game that we switch to a 17-color deck. But they didn't go for
You
it.
can go with the 13 color deck.
Yeah,
where all
so-
the deuces are the same.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they're right. The number card.
The 13-color deck, and they didn't.
That's useful.
But that's only if it's on NBC where it goes with the peacock and
The
stuff.
bum bum bum.
they changed that logo.
I know. They
Or well,
bought out.
the peacock stays, but the
Yeah,
corporate
right.
one's awful.
And and also the WPT is much easier to find this year because it's got a regular time on FSN every Sunday at 8 and 11 p.m. You guys can check it out. Ratings are up. It's younger. It's edgier, and they're doing coverage for the entire tournament.
On the TV show.
That's right, on the TV show instead of just the final table. So, got to give it to those guys for kicking up their game.
Have they
a
got
little
any
bit.
feedback on that you guys have heard on doing that?
I think that people weren't quite understanding that it's like that super package at the beginning, that it is a bit... It's just like a high-octane, quick power through 4 days. It's not like the WSOP where you're doing...
Several
20 minutes
episodes,
on each
right?
Day and then
Does
the
it
final
confuse
day.
the non-poker literate people is really
I've
what my
not
question
heard
is.
anything, honestly. There's a lot of nice new
Well, what-
packages and stuff.
You guys like it better, I assume, because
I like it, but I prefer the early days. I think the
Yeah, I would-
final table is often anticlimactic at some
Exactly.
points.
now you're not really playing poker a lot of times.
My roommate back in Atlanta is a poker fan. He doesn't follow any of this stuff, doesn't listen to the radio shows, follow live updates and all that. And he thought it was interesting, but he didn't wrap his mind around it right away.
The fact that they were seeing stuff, what led to the final table.
Right.
Do you think there are a lot of people out there that don't even realize that something happened leading up to that? That it's not
Exactly.
just those six
Before
guys
this-
sitting down?
That's probably the biggest question I get from my kind of casual poker friends or people I talk to. Who are like, oh, you work at poker, you work for the WPTs. They're like, oh, I didn't realize 600 people played in that event, and this is the final 6. And I'm like, no, yeah, we just went out in the parking lot.
We just called up Barry Greenstein and asked him to come
like
by.
Dancing with the Stars is the things they're used to sing. They
Right.
just picked those people to be at the final table. And this week-
it's not that they're the people who think that are morons. They just never
Yeah,
thought
they don't
about
know.
it.
I think that's the biggest adjustment is that, and to me, it's my favorite new thing about the show is that now you have this final table in context of the season, in context of the entire tournament, in context of a person's career. Like, they had a lot of great stuff with Phil Ivey in the Bellagio Cup episodes. Like, it was one of the more interesting Phil Ivey videos I've seen in a while where he opens up about,
Yeah, the only person he ever speaks to is Barry. That's it. So the fact that he had a
Barry, did you
conversation
do these interviews? Is that what it is?
Barry Greenstein's been added as a feature producer for the World Poker Tour. And he wanted to give these guys their proper introductions. Thanks, guys, for coming by. We've got BJ Nemeth, who's the photographer and lead reporter for the World Poker Tour. And we've got Jessica Wellman, who is also a reporter for the World Poker Tour and the managing editor of Bluff Magazine. Thank you guys for being here. Let's talk a little bit. Barry, you had some words about Joseph Chung you wanted to get to.
Well, it's just that we just interviewed. Remember, he had good chips and got knocked out.
And I made him wait.
Yeah. And he's one of those guys, you just get the vibe that everybody likes him. Don't you kind of feel that?
I don't know anybody who dislikes him.
Yeah, he's just a
really
nice,
quite an
nice kid.
Guy.
And so
not at all the guy I was expecting. All I heard was stories about 6-bet shoves, and I expected
and
someone
how
else.
many times have you told me I got this guest lined up because you thought he had chips? The guy went out. He's going to bail.
We're scrambling. Yeah,
he bailed on us. We got to get someone else. The kid comes here. I mean, even seriously, myself, before I was sponsored by PokerStars, I do interviews. Really, because I'm sponsored by PokerStars, and that's part of what I do.
Yeah, it's part
that's
of your
what they pay me for. Back in the day, I don't know if BJ's doing things. I didn't give it. People wanted to interview. I might have, BJ was a friend of mine, say, okay, you really want me to. Right. But other than that, if I got knocked out, I was at the airport.
Yeah.
Right? I was gone. As soon as I'm knocked out, I'm gone. I'm not sticking around for
The standard line is when you ask, they'll say, if I'm still in, I'll do it.
Right.
Yeah.
But he just said yes and then busted. And I didn't give him. Back in the day, I used to give people the option. Once they busted, I would go up and be like, hey, man, if you want to stick around. I don't do that anymore. I don't give him the out.
No, Andy did the interview with a smile, and there was no way you could read that he got broke from the tournament.
Not at all. And that's why when I asked that question of him, as if he were still in.
The one where you needled him?
Yeah, by accident, because he kind of had the air about him of a guy who was still in the tournament. So
right.
That's what in Biloxi I was laughing because someone kind of made a comment about the A7 shot.
Yeah.
And Joe was the first one to make a joke about it. He's his attitude. It's the kind of attitude that you need, in my opinion, in order to do well in poker in the long term, is to be...
Actually, I just thought of a good joke from him. I don't know if he used it. Or what I would have said, you know what I would have said?
I love Barry's jokes. Go ahead, Barry.
I'd have said, I squeezed the same card twice. I thought I had ace.
I misread my hand. What do you guys want?
Yeah, I guess I should have looked back.
I love it. Well, let's talk a little bit about this tournament.
Wait, what was the joke he used? Or do you don't remember?
It's a very, contextualized joke that requires quite a lot of explanation.
Okay.
It's a big lead up.
You're just saying it was over my head. Okay.
Yeah, you had to be there.
It's
one of those things where you had to be there. We are here, though, at the World Poker Tour event. How's the turnout this year? I came in late. I was doing the big game all week. I just got here today. What is going on in this event right now? Let's start with BJ.
It was a little bit less than last year, but I'd say it was right in line with expectations.
Maybe even a little bit above. 681 is a good number. Last year it was 745, but
still to get nearly 700.
They had online qualifiers from Full Tilt last year. This year,
yeah. So it's almost
not part of it.
So it's almost like exactly what it got without the online qualifiers, or even more. It's even a little more. And theoretically, when people hear online qualifiers, everyone who's a serious player says, "Hey, well then I want to get some of that money too."
Yeah.
There's overlay. So yeah, I guess you could make the case that it grew.
All right, and what's first place this year, guys?
It's 1 point something-ish.
It's
the first seven-figure prize pool, or seven-figure payday of the season.
$1.65 million.
Wow, over $1.5 million for first place. That's pretty cool.
This is usually one of the biggest, if not the biggest, events of the WPT.
Yeah. Foxwoods used to be, when they ran all those qualifiers, then this used to be the next biggest after that. I mean, the main event.
Right, obviously the championship had the
so
biggest
this used to be number 3 in rank, but now I guess it's probably number 2.
So, guys, what are some of the big storylines? I want to get to Barry's tournament in just a couple minutes here, but what are some of the big storylines other than Barry going on here? Who are we interested in? Who's a chip leader that we care about? What are some of the there's always one or two people who are interesting just because of who they are.
Shall we go? Chip leader is a guy named Joe De Niro.
Who has quite the chip lead. I don't think we found anyone
Okay, go
else.
ahead. He has Mucho De Niro. I mean, I know. I see it on your face.
No, that's not even the most obvious thing about him. When you hear Joe De Niro, what do you think, Barry, when you hear De Niro?
Well, you're in the film, so I know what you think. He's Robert De Niro's son.
Well, and he has the Yankees cap on.
Yeah, he's kind of got the look.
There's a bit of a resemblance as well. It is Robert De Niro's son. He doesn't want anyone to know that. But whoops.
But see, I'm not entirely buying that. Wikipedia mentions his children, doesn't mention anybody named Joe.
Really? Okay.
It could just be something this guy tells people.
First of all,
he tells people and then levels
and then
them
says,
by
I don't
acting
like
as
it
the
to get
son of a-
around.
He does look like him.
I assume Robert De Niro isn't Robert De Niro's real name. it just sounds like a stage name.
I actually don't think it is his real name.
Yeah, right.
Oh, okay.
Wow,
I
the plot
recall reading
thickens.
this.
I mean, don't you think so?
Yeah, that's totally.
If you have a stage name, does the kid take your stage name?
Well, if you change your name legally, you probably does.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I guess
it depends how much pull he wants in L.A.
Like Ocho Cinco's children.
We got to get Matt Waldron, who, by the way, helped me out a lot with today's interview. I got in a little late. He'll just go ask the guy. He doesn't care.
Well, Kimberly asked him.
Yeah, but then,
he said no.
but then people are going to associate.
Kimberly Lansing asked him, and he said, "No, I'm not."
I'm not.
People,
Okay.
I get that a lot, but I'm not.
Oh, okay. Well, there goes all my De Niro material. So this show's going to get a lot shorter.
But we also have
Other good stuff.
near the top of the leaderboard. We have Michael Mizrachi.
Who won this specific event before?
Season 3. That was the one that kind of introduced the poker world to the grinder. He had a final table before that where he got a bad beat like
The
a month
grinder?
before. And Carlos Mortensen has a lot
Appeared
of
as if out of
chips.
nowhere. Which is, Alan Cunningham also just.
Yeah, he just won a big pot at my table. He was at my table. He just
Did he
busted.
bust Josh Ari
Yeah,
at
he
the end
busted
of the other
Josh.
day?
Where
Okay.
what did
Kings
Josh?
to a set is what.
Actually, it's kind of
Alan
weird
tweeted?
that Josh. I guess they had a lot of chips. It was 4-way pot. That I had ace queen, and actually here's how the action went because I was in the hand.
Okay.
I played bad. I've played. I don't want to say badly, but like I've out of sync for 2 days. Okay.
I noticed that from your tweets that you don't
it's like-
seem to be in love with
it's
your
like
play so far this tournament.
Every hand that I thought of bluffing and didn't, I could have taken the pot away, it seems like. And every time I tried to do something, I was wrong and got raised. You know, I bluffed and got raised.
Have you made any hands, or is it
That's
all
the only
bluffing?
thing that saved me is I made is like if I would have just played passively, I'd have more chips. If I had just bluffed, I'd probably have more chips. Whatever. It's like out of sync. But I've had enough hands where I'm half of average. Okay, so I haven't done very well. So I come to their table. It's a bad table. You know, Alan Cunningham, Josh Arieh, and a few other good players. You know, it was really, and they all had more chips than I had. Guy opens in the one hole, and Josh calls, and I have ace queen offsuit, and I had no clue what to do. They all have me covered, and I have like an uncomfortable amount. I had 40 big blinds.
I'd say that's
And I
very
I hate
uncomfortable
that
amount.
amount of chips
Yeah.
because playing it for all the chips, it's like that's too much to play it for.
Right.
I don't want to play it as a bluff where I raise and get re-raised and fold. I don't like folding the hand to seem like too much value. So as usual, which is going on for 2 days, I didn't know what to do. Okay, but I called and hoped that raising wouldn't have won the pot. Okay. And now another guy calls, and Alan Cunningham calls in the small blind. It becomes a 5-way pot. And the flop comes 10-9-4 with 2 diamonds. Now, I'm hoping at this point that the guy who raised in has a big pair, and I'm going to be happily surprised that I couldn't have won this before the flop. Because when you're in these hands, you know, I'm just thinking I probably dogged another one.
right.
And I could have raised, okay? But what happens is Alan just leads out into the field from either the small or big blind, wherever he called from. And it's a 10-9-4 board, so what do you think Alan has? You know, maybe Jack 10, maybe his top pair, and he's leading out, betting his hand there because it's kind of a dangerous board. Could even have Jack 8 of could have a strong hand like a straight and flush draw. But I didn't think he had what he had, which we'll find out. But he bet, and he bet 5,100 in the field and had been raised in for 2,600. Okay. Now,
So it's like half the pot,
immediately
less than
the
half
guy
pot.
who initially raised folds. And at this point, I'm saying, see,
You're pissed, yeah.
I'm saying I dogged it. I couldn't pick this pot up. I mean, I could even shove 40 big blinds. I'd have won the pot, right? So I'm kind of upset about it right now.
But then Josh swoops
But now
in to your
Josh,
rescue.
that's 15,000. But still, I didn't think Josh was the guy who was going to pick me
Yeah.
off because I never would have thought that he had what he had. Josh now makes it like 16,000. And they've got a lot of chips. They maybe have 80,000 apiece or something.
Now
like
you're
that.
wishing you had just mocked ace queen to begin with.
No, I'm thinking Josh doesn't. I'm thinking Josh has. Who knows? Jacks could he have? I'm not thinking Josh has. Whatever. Jacks he'd call me. I don't know what. I think Josh has the nut flush draw or something like that. Probably some hand like that.
Semi bluff.
But I'm not thinking he has a hand that was going to pick off my ace queen if I shoved. But now goes back.
You mean pre-flop?
Pre-flop.
Yeah.
I fold and the next guy folds and goes back to Alan, and he just ships it for like this. Remember this 15,000 for like 80,000.
Whoa.
And which is of course surprising. A big
he
ship,
has
and he
Josh
has about.
covered?
They have about the same amount of
Oh,
chips.
okay.
And so it's surprising. Now Josh goes in the tank, and again I'm saying, oh, I could have won this pot pre-flop. He goes in the tank, And he calls, and
I love the resolve, Barry.
And he turns.
I still think I could have gotten this
Well,
one.
you usually assume if the first guy folded, didn't have a pair, unless he had unless he had ace king, this pot was mine to win pre-flop. But I was wrong, as usual, because I've been on a sink the whole time. Josh had flatted with 2 kings. And that's what he had. And you can't blame him, although it was a lot of chips, and it is Alan Cunningham, because kind of felt like Alan Cunningham could have some sort of combination. Like even a plausible hand was 10-9 of diamonds and a 4. So a plausible hand be ace-4 of diamonds.
Right.
He'd probably play that hand that way, bet out and just chip and just take his chances, right? But he didn't. He had a very ugly hand for Josh. He flopped a set of 4s and just led out reasonable play and shipped. I guess he didn't really have a nice intermediate amount to bet to try to trap him. And of course, he's thinking Josh may have some sort of diamond hand. He doesn't want to have to mess with it.
Right, exactly.
Might as well just get it in and not worry about it. And no king came, and he busted him. Huge pot.
Jess and I caught the Twitter version of that hand, which
Where we're
had
like,
a lot more
do you
holes.
think he busted Josh Aryeh? It seems like he did, but wouldn't he have
I was
said-
talking
Now we know the whole story behind the hand.
Go back and bust Josh
The
Aryeh.
missing story is I got to feel good that I didn't go
right.
broke.
Oh, that's
As a matter of
right.
fact, now when the
We
hands
told
got
this
turned,
completely
that's
wrong.
right. Yeah, you gotta, this is a self-centered story.
How does this
Wait,
affect
wait.
Barry? Is the
Yeah,
question.
how did this
Yeah.
affect
What
Barry?
about me?
Now Barry had to sweat no ace on the turn in the river because I could have been all in against 2 kings, and a queen came on the turn, and now I got to say, okay, now I got to sweat an ace and a queen on the river, and thankfully I didn't care about Josh
man.
going busted. No ace or queen came. I don't even know what it was, but I would have gone broke if I'd have played it fast.
I don't know who won the hand, but I didn't win the hand.
I didn't
so.
go broke.
The moral
where I-
victory.
That's right, moral victory. I was wrong that I could have taken
That's
the
right.
initial guy probably off his hand.
But if we're really going to play results,
wrong,
you
but
should
I
have
would have gone
folded.
broke.
You should have folded immediately. If we're really going to play results.
Right.
Are any other interesting hands the last couple days, Barry?
Just hands I played backwards, so no, it's not interesting. I've just struggled. I got it. Well, actually, a real interesting hand. How I stayed in. I bluffed wrong and did all these things wrong, and I got down to about 20,000, where I finally said I'm just going to sit and kind of wait. That's what you say to yourself.
Right.
But now
I'm
I had
done.
sat
I'm gearing down.
But now I had sat and waited long enough that I felt I had credibility.
What
from
was
all
long
these,
enough? 6, 7 hands.
Long enough means that up until then, like every time I bet and someone raised, I had to fold, okay? Or check raised someone, they moved in, I folded. So I had absolutely no credibility. So I waited a few rounds, and I said, okay, now I've got some credibility. And now some guy who actually was a bit of a calling station was kind of stupid. But what happened, the guy I had been picking on to my right went broke. So there's no one left for me to pick on, and I had a pretty tough table. So now this guy opens, and he's playing enough hands, although he's a bit of a calling station. I had 7-6 of diamonds. Now, I like 3-betting this hand when I have chips, because there's going to be play to the hand. I didn't have a lot of chips, but I said, what the heck, I just can't help myself. And I 3-bet it. He had opened to, I'm trying to think, because it was yesterday. I can't even remember what the blinds were, but whatever. He made a kind of normal open. I made what I was the normal size 3-bet. I'm going to pick numbers, but I'll probably pick the wrong ones. I made it to 2,500 in the 3-bet, so that means he had opened. Okay, so it had to be 150, 300 blinds. He opened for 800. I 3-bet to 2,500, and I had like 21,000 in chips. He called, and the flop came 9-9-5, all different suits. As you know, the percentage of time I'm going to continuation bet in this situation. I did flop a gut shot.
It was 100%.
Fortunately, it was because, as you'll see, it saved me. I bet 3,000.
And he, of course, gives you no credit whatsoever.
He calls, and
Yep.
at this point, I say, okay, he's got a pair, but this got a lot of chips. He had 80,000. I'm not going to knock him off his pair of 8s.
Right.
Or whatever he's got. And so so now on the turn, an interesting card comes up, the 5 of diamonds, putting up 2 diamonds. And I did have a gut shot on the flop, too, although I'm afraid he's got a middle pair. It'd be really sick if an 8 comes off and it fills him up.
You catch your
and
gut
an
shot
8
and
is
he
a very
fills.
likely pair with me having 6s and 7s, him calling on this board. If you had to pick a pair that he had to call me at
just
this
call
point,
it, right.
8s is probably,
Right.
if you look at the graph, it spikes at 8s. So I'd rather catch a diamond than an 8 at this point.
Yes.
Okay? And so he checked to me, and I could bluff. I could send another barrel, which I will sometimes. I think the guy's weak. But this guy had a lot of chips, and he was calling bets, and I felt that he's not going to fold. So I said, okay, I'd hate to bet here, and I don't have a lot of chips. And remember, at this point, I bet 2,500 pre-flop, 3,000 out of the flop is 5,500. Actually, I had more chips than that because at this point I had 21,000 left, so I had more starting the hand.
So you're like looking
So
at
if
firing
I bet
half your stack.
like 6,000 or 7,000, he's probably going to be forced to make a decision to move in rather than just call.
Right.
So in these situations where at least I do have a draw, I hate to bet and get myself taken off the draw. So it has to be probably right in the long run, I think, to just check behind, take my draw, hope the diamond comes off,
Right.
and maybe I'll get something on the river.
What do you do if the 8 comes off?
I hadn't thought that far ahead
Okay.
because I'm getting old. And seriously, when I was young, I knew what I was going to do based on any card to come off. That's
If the ace of spades comes off, if the ace of diamonds comes off,
yeah,
the
that's
ace of
a big
clubs comes
difference
off.
between being older and younger, where you're really in it. When I was young, I knew what I was always going to bet, what I was going to do, what I was going to do if the guy now bet out based on any of the 40.
Then you get older and you realize that's a lot of wasted energy. Just wait till what
When
does
I'm
come
older,
off, then
well,
you think
just
about it.
my brain. When I'm older, it's like
Pitching with runners on
it's
base.
like the next card's a mystery, and then you got to think. I think pretty quickly. Still, that's the good news.
Just not as much.
No, just not as well. That's the bad news. So really, I come to a conclusion. It's just not the right conclusion as often as it was when I was young.
It's a fast conclusion.
But a card
though.
came off that I wasn't even thinking about. Can you guess what it was? You know my tweets, so you probably can guess it.
Is it a 5?
No, it was it was still 2 pair on the board.
What card would you not think about and really be kind of say, hey, that was something I hadn't thought about?
Pair your 7.
An ace?
No. Nobody's got it? I thought you follow me on Twitter.
I read this tweet.
It's
I don't
very
even know what it
busy
is.
during
During
the day.
play nowadays,
Okay.
it's like I just look for
Well,
numbers.
a very
and pull them off
interesting
Twitter.
card, and and this is the nice thing about being old, because it was a card that surprised me. I hadn't even considered it. The 8 of diamonds.
Oh, you combine the two. It's an 8 and it's a diamond.
What does the 8 of diamonds do to my hand?
Yeah, you make a straight flush.
I make a straight flush.
And then you really want him to have
but
two
what
eights.
happens is the pot at this point, we've each put in 55. We put
It's
in a
because
total
that's
of 11,000.
so you don't ever go, oh, I'm going to make a straight flush
Right.
gut shot.
I
Like,
hadn't
it's-
even thought of
This is
running.
where I
I
needed
made
to
a
be
runner
writing
straight
down
flush.
cards.
What a nice thing! And then the guy kind of overbets. The pot's like a little over 11,000. He comes out with an 11,000 chip bet. I've only got 21.
Did you get a
22,000.
boner when that happened, Barry?
It was like, well, here was actually the funny thing that happened. Is I said, I have a straight flush, and this guy's just bet the size of the pot, and he's kind of going to be forced, unless he's bluffing, going to be forced to call. But I'm, again, being old, want to look back at my cards to really make sure.
Then I
Do
found out I
really
didn't
make
have a
straight-
straight flush.
Yeah, but that's a huge tell, though, right? If you look back at your cards.
No, that wasn't what I was thinking at all. I would hate to take more than 2 seconds to get my chips in, and then someone say, what are you
Right.
doing slow rolling this
Slow
guy?
rolling, right.
And I said, I'm going to take a chance that I remember my cards correctly. And it isn't. I mean, seriously, when you get old, there have been times I've been playing the cards from the previous hand. That does happen.
I've done it.
But I said, I don't want to. I'd feel worse that someone said I went in the tank with a straight flush.
You'd rather go broke.
I'd rather have them say, and then Barry turned over
Right.
absolute
So
air.
I just, within 2
Barry
seconds,
turned over Jack Deuce.
within 2 seconds, put all my chips in without looking back at my hand and trusting that it. And I have even misread my cards
on a day when you're
before.
already out of sync.
Right. So I put it in, and he beat me in the pot with his 9s full. He had a 9, so of course there's nothing he can get away. He can't get away from
No,
9s full.
never.
And he's looked, and he still had a lot of chips. I turned it over, and everyone's like, of course, anyone who'd seen I hadn't played a hand for a few rounds. I 3-bet him with 7-6,
And
then
got there, yeah.
making the straight flush. They're all lucky to be you type of thing that you could set 3-bet.
Barry
a guy with
Greenstein's
7-6.
so good.
No, so lucky. No wonder you've done well at poker. Yeah, if I could 3-bet and make a straight flush, I would too. But it ended up I had one out, straight flush, and that's how I stayed in chips. So that shows you what I need to survive.
I love how Barry went from interesting hands to one of the most interesting hands I've heard of in a long time.
I'd seen
what
the
a
tweet,
pretty-
but I never associate. When I
What
saw the
a
tweet,
pretty
I didn't know
card,
it was
by the way.
Barry's.
What a pretty one-out straight flush to hit.
Do you think that when that card hit, that you gave off any reaction at all at this point in your life, hitting a gut shot straight flush? Do you think you gave away anything in your face?
I don't
Other
think.
than the puzzled
I really
look, I
don't.
don't remember what I have in my
I mean,
hand.
like this look that just said, I think I just made a straight flush.
I was actually standing on my chair once I realized what I have. I don't think that really gave anything away. Because I wasn't screaming. I was just, wow.
silently screaming inside his head.
The first thing is to make a hand like that, which, of course, was neat. But then you still say, it's like picking up aces and getting a walk type of thing.
Right.
The next thing is to actually double up
Yeah.
with it. You don't expect it.
Right. Absolutely. Guys, any other through lines in this before
Tomorrow's the Academy Awards, and Academy Award nominee Jennifer Tilly, not this year but in the past, is
still
still
in the field.
alive with
With
a
plenty of
double
chips.
average chip stack.
Plenty of chips.
She came in pretty short, too, right?
I don't know what she started the day
Which,
with.
by the way, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not. She played on the big game this week, and she was one of the most entertaining players
That's what I heard.
I
ever
heard
had.
that her
Yeah.
episodes were. A lot of people were saying they were their favorites.
We had a couple really great days, which will be a week's worth of shows when you guys see them on air this week at the big game. Jennifer Tilly was a part of one of the best weeks that we've ever done.
I didn't even see that. The
adore
lineup I
Jennifer
saw,
Tilly.
though, I did kind of say to myself, "Oh, this is my kind of lineup." So looking forward to it. The day I saw you there, I don't want to give it away.
Okay, I don't know what I'm allowed to give away. I know I'm not allowed to give away results. As far as people who played, I think that's fair game.
Yeah,
They
it
give-
was,
they
it was
give
the
out the
Harala Bob day.
Yeah,
I
they-
was just very, very excited to see.
Yeah, they give out the
Harala
lineups.
Bobs.
Yeah, there was something on every day that was really fun. There was either great talk or great action, and some really interesting storylines developed, which you guys will be able to see in a few months. Jess and BJ, I told you guys it'd be one segment. I do have a little bit of poker news, like discussion, since the poker beat doesn't exist anymore. Do you guys want to stick around for that? You want to save it for another show? Do you have time?
I can stick around.
Sure.
It's okay, Jess,
Yeah,
if
that's
you have
fine.
things to do.
Sure, let's do it.
What we're going to do is we're going to touch a little bit on these stories and hopefully get more into them later in the week. There's some things going on, and Barry's a great resource for this sort of thing. Barry is really dialed into the poker world. The first thing, of course, huge news is this guy. Please explain it to me, Barry. Travis McCarr.
Well, Travis McCarr actually has even called out Joey as he wants to debate him, which doesn't make sense. It's not like nobody's
Because
against.
Joe doesn't know anything?
No, well, kind of. A lot of stuff he gets from me following it. Nobody is against anyone. We just want to find who the criminals are.
Right.
This is
Right.
the biggest scandal in the history of poker.
It's about justice.
And the cheating. One of the main cheating accounts was this account called Sleepless, which was Travis McCarr's wife's account. And Travis McCarr was the assistant for Russ Hamilton. And pretty much the assumption is, at this point, conventional wisdom is the crooks we know are Travis McCarr, Russ Hamilton, and Greg Pearson. I'm not even saying any of them are guilty, but that's kind of what the evidence we have to this
right.
point.
Everyone has assumed at this point
And
that
it's
they are
also been
criminals.
thought, what I've always been afraid of, and people think I'm trying to defend Russ, is that we just pin it on Russ and we miss what's really
Right,
going
right.
on. And
There's
I don't
no
want
way
that to
this
happen.
is
I
a
don't want people
one-man-
getting away. But what I've always felt is if Russ was playing there, his right-hand man computer guy has to know what
Yeah.
he's doing also
Right.
and has to be in on it. And Russ was kind of given, when I talked to Russ that one time, he was saying, I didn't do it, but people have my password, people have these things, and they can do, they have access to my accounts, and that's why it looks like me. That's what Russ was saying.
Right.
And if that was true, it's basically, if
I was
Russ,
just holding it for a friend.
it's basically if Russ was
Sorta, yeah.
guilty, Travis had to know.
Right.
And if Russ was innocent, Travis had to be the one making it look
Who
like
was
Russ.
guilty, right.
So Travis looked like really even more guilty than Russ in some sense. So now Travis is defending himself, and he has kind of a good defense, if you heard him talk, that he doesn't really even know much about poker, which is kind of a good defense. And it even means that people could have cheated and he doesn't know what's going on. It's kind of like...
He thought they were playing Indian head poker, but only
Do you really
everyone
need
got
to
to
know
see
that
But he
everyone's
seems-
poker
cards.
if you
he
see what
seems-
everyone has.
No, but he
you
seems-
just see the basics.
It
People
looks
thought he was
like-
playing a practice game where everyone plays their cards up.
It looks like we finally have a guy who's basically got the smoking gun. And so that's why we were able to, the guys on 2+2, to give credit, had all the records with the IP addresses, had a hand history that made it clear. We were being told by AP there's no cheating. We looked it over. And anyone who was a good poker player saw it's really obvious only a cheater could be making these decisions. Whether it's calling with 10 high
Consistently,
or
yeah.
folding things that had to be called is very obvious. What we often have going on with this stuff is the wrong people get the evidence. And by not being poker players, they can't figure out that, hey, this is really, let's say, a smoking gun or these IP addresses. We had some really good sleuths on 2+2 with the AP stuff who really figured it out and where it's going and who was using this audit monster type thing. They solved that case. And the feeling is, again, if we could get some similar stuff, we got a lot of people in the poker community who are interested in this who would solve this one also, but we haven't been given the evidence. Now, what I felt all along, a lot of times they go with the corporate side, that there were shady things going on at UB corporate, which is probably true with companies like this, with shell companies like that. And my feeling all along was the reason we're not getting information is because everyone's got some dirt on their face, and it's like no one wants to talk because if one person
exposes
talks,
everyone,
then someone else they don't. It's like if you live in people live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones.
Anyone who is totally clean wouldn't have any evidence.
That's right.
I'm never going to rat on Barry seeing him at a strip club. Because that means I'm at the
come
strip
back
club.
To you. Exactly. So I think that's what's...
But we know you go to
strip if you wonder why it's been kept under wraps, that's what's going on, is nobody can afford to talk. I mean, maybe they're afraid for danger or what will happen to them. But I think it's more that they think someone will come back and tell something about them. Maybe not about the cheating scandal, but about skimming money, about having a shell company. There's
about
all
stealing
these other
office supplies.
Yeah, whatever it is. But you know what I'm saying. But now, this is why really, and a lot of people in the poker community are happy. You get a guy like Travis talking, and again, if he's innocent, he's innocent. I don't know. But if he now starts pinning things on other people or even have tapes, now you finally get someone calling someone out. And then you'll now get someone else either saying, hey, but what about this?
Trying to call out Travis.
You were involved. Right. You did this, whatever. You'll now start to get people to talk, and that will now break this case open. And so what I did is, of course, we would happily have Travis come in on Poker Road, and we won't drill him and try to prove he's guilty or whatever. Yeah. We will let him say his piece about what he did, and hopefully maybe he'll say something.
Look, we're famous for softballing people, guys, so if you want to come on the show...
We've
fine. Never had an interview where it's like, and kind of mean to that guy.
Kara Scott, tell us the truth.
I immediately... because, people think I'm friends of Russ. I've spoken to the guy 4 times my entire life. And I extend that invitation to Russ Hamilton. I will give you a fair interview where I don't try to undercut you and talk over you.
Unlike all the other interviews you've ever done.
No, but which people, well, the problem is most people feel they're not going to be fairly interviewed.
Right.
And I won't try to go with the corporate stuff, whether I think it's dirty or not, because as a poker player, all I care about is who was looking at other people's hands and using it against them, which seriously costs people lives. We hear these people saying, I had money, it cost me, I lost all my money, my confidence, I went crazy. We hear this from a Brad Booth, we hear it from a Mike Matusow, we hear it from a lot of people, even people we don't know. This is serious damage to people, and people were cheated. I always want to expose the cheats in poker. This is a service to the poker community, and when people always think I was upset at Joey joining UB, because they're a dirty company. I don't know if they are or not. On the UB side, they tell us they bought that out. No, what I was upset about is on the AP side, because they helped cover up a scandal.
Right.
And to me, as a poker player, that's very serious. You don't let the cheaters get away with it. You don't allow them to be covered up. And so I still, and Travis gives us more hope that we will end up finding the answers to this thing. So, Greg Pearson, you're innocent. I'll give you a fair interview. I'm not going to say you're guilty. I know it, and try to. I'll let you say your piece.
Tell your side
I'll
of the
let
story.
you defend yourself and say why we've got the wrong impression. Even though you knew about the tool and maybe were involved in programming it. And Russ Hamilton, you told me over the phone that what he told me was, if you fly, my attorney says I can't say certain things. He told me at the time, in confidence, I will tell you who cheated. What he told me was I wasn't involved, but I did find out once this went down. I knew who had access. I knew who cheated. Travis has even given us. These guys at what is
Dogtown? Yeah, I read an email.
I wanted them to ask the first simple question: do you know for sure that Russ was the guy who cheated with hole cards? Travis was really giving us the impression is Russ didn't get a lot of money, that maybe Russ was just silenced. He knows who cheated, but he wasn't the mastermind like conveniently Ultimate Bet is telling us. They want us to stop looking. They want us to just say, it's this guy, it's no one else, which nobody has ever believed is true.
Right.
Jess, what do you think? Do you have an opinion on this?
Honestly, it sounds lazy, but I am aware that I don't know enough about it to have a valid opinion on the matter. This is something that, as a poker media person, I feel like I should be, but there's so much to it. There's so many different facets of it. There are 2 separate and different cheating scandals that...
I would like to... here's something you can weigh in on. Just how do you feel about the way this information is being acquired? The information is coming out, but when I read these things on Donkdown and see those interviews, it seems so much more about muckraking than about getting to the truth, and that's sort of what bothers me. Is that
I think that's the problem with the sources. And props to Brian Micon and Todd and the people and Haley but it just seems like it's hard that every time something happens, it's like, hey, at Joe Seebach. blah, 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 blah. And it's just, as soon as you do that, to me, it's just like, I don't think you're really...
Right, it becomes more about, like, needling and less about, like, just getting the
truth
truth out.
They think Joe went to the dark side or something. I mean,
right.
And then he knows...
They brought him in and said, here's all our dirt, now don't tell anyone.
Joe,
And then
Joe
Paul is corrupt.
I mean, whatever you think about Joey, he's trying to... He goes with what Paul Leggett tells him that it's clean, and you can say that Joey's naive, whatever.
He'll challenge him.
I mean, even with Haley, I say if you can prove it, it's fine. I mean, people always say, well, we've got proof because someone just said Paul Leggett's dirty. That's proof.
That's not
if people
proof.
have this circular stuff. I mean, Paul Leggett, I think we can... There's no question that people who were in AP at the time did what they could to, like, hide the scandal, which obviously I hold against them. But a lot of those people that Paul was like a new guy and was answering to, those people actually have left and gone to other sites. I don't want to look like I'm supporting Poker Stars because none of them did go to Poker Stars. But they were, like, giving him orders. I mean, the feeling is, like, again, the conventional wisdom is that Paul's still saying things to cover for some higher-ups. And Travis has given us, and again, Paul, I'm not saying that's true, that's the way it looks from what we've got so far. And even Travis's innuendo is that there are dirty people and people who cheat and we don't know who they are.
Right.
Which is kind of lending credibility. I mean, frankly, I think we all right now would like to get a transcript of the tapes. I hope Travis makes multiple copies and has them in some safety deposit boxes for in case something bad happens.
Which is weird because I was mailed a key the other day. So.
Right. And I'm hopeful, and I even would say to Russ Hamilton, assume that information is going to get out, and I assume in those tapes we're going to know when people say so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so were involved, that'll be said something along the lines in that meeting. And so you might as well, I mean, if anyone feels that on this thing they really are being unfairly put in with the cheaters, you have a chance to kind of exonerate yourself because eventually we're going to know.
Come on the show, you can tell your side.
Yeah.
I think Travis McCarr is a good example, too, of someone who, like, when, he was in the Wicked Chops report, very much implicated as being part of the problem and has been relatively well received because he's just willing to be open and candid about what happened. I think that the key to getting more information out of this whole thing is to just not have everybody approaching everybody else with so much hostility.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's what we're offering here. It completely...
Yeah, no hostility. Just tell us what you have.
An open forum.
Yeah. Especially if you're clean. I mean, I understand Russ has some excuses. I don't know of things.
Yeah, I mean, be prepared
you can imagine
to
why,
answer for things.
You can imagine why. Yeah, like I said, there are two things you can imagine. One, why people might have
Plus,
money
I'll tell you
laundering and other things to hide.
If you come on the show and you want to talk about this, Russ, Travis, whoever, afterwards, no matter what happens, we'll play race situations.
Right. No, but
right?
and the
Those
other
are the
thing
only
is,
tough questions you have to answer. What's
I don't
better,
even
Coke
have
or
a problem
Pepsi?
with them saying I have reasons I don't want to answer that question. If there are certain questions people don't want to answer for reasons, whatever they are, okay, you don't have to. But
I'm not doing a 20-minute interview with someone saying I can't.
As long as they're willing to say something.
But there are people out there
who
aren't willing to.
I still to this day. I mean, especially there's got to be someone clean. Is everybody dirty? Someone clean.
I think that there's no one that's completely clean that knows everything.
That's actually probably what it is. Anyone who knows something has some things. Is it just they're scared of what's going to happen, has something to lose? And the theory, even with Travis right now, I mean, the other question you ask is, why now? Why all of a sudden did he decide to talk?
Agreed.
And I think what I don't know if you know, the theory is he's hurting right now.
Financially.
And we know Russ, I think, is hurting right now from what I hear. People have said it like I know firsthand, like he's a friend of mine. No, I know from other people who say he's scrambling, he owes money, he's playing small stakes poker, whatever. And same with Travis, he got in some legal thing. And I have a feeling what probably he and his wife said is, we're in trouble and they're facing this legal case. We have no money. We have something that might be a little piece of gold, and that's the tapes from the meeting, some of this evidence. People would pay for this. It's something that, let's face it, he knows the poker community wants. And very likely, people would really be interested in that. And if Travis is clean and has this thing, I think there are a lot of people who would contribute to the aid to Travis McCarr legal fund.
The tapes fund.
I mean, they would be sending him stuff online anyway, $5 at a time.
All right, well, we hope to maybe have any of these folks on. I think it's unlikely, but the invitation is out there. I think we're going to skip our next news story. This episode's gone on long enough. I've kept BJ and Jessica, but I would like, if you guys are available, since the Poker Beat doesn't exist anymore, if we could do a little Poker Beat segment the rest of the week. I'd love to talk about Sorel Mitzi.
Yeah,
so,
we're going to talk about the other.
Yeah, so if you guys gear up, we're going to talk about Sorel tomorrow night. For now, we've got to take another quick break. If I can keep you guys for 5 more minutes, I want to play a quick game when we get back. It's a one-question game. It's called What Did Stapes Have? Okay, where it's a poker game. I want you guys to guess my hand. If either one of you, if any of you can guess either of the cards I have, it's a $20 free roll. I asked it of everyone on set of the big game. Not one person got it. $20 free roll. Poker Road Radio.
That's
back after this. Welcome back to Poker Road Radio from the LA Poker Classic. It's a World Poker Tour event, huge event here, one of the biggest of the year. I also wanted to remind people, in addition to watching the World Poker Tour every Sunday night at 8 and 11 p.m., Club WPT is another cool thing that World Poker Tour offers. It's $20 a month, which gets you access to all kinds of cool stuff on the WPT website. And in addition to that, you get to play free poker where they give away real prizes and stuff. You can never lose a dime online again playing at clubwpt.com, so be sure to check that out. Really quick before we take it to the hole today, I played some live cash poker at the place where we shoot the big game. I got to play some live poker while I wasn't shooting the big game this week, and I never get to play live, and I had one of the most interesting hands of my life, and I want to give everyone here, John, you can even participate if you like, $20 free roll if you can guess either of the 2 cards I was holding.
Either.
I'm trying to think if it would really be like a bad thing if I thought the same way you do.
What's that?
I mean, like if I guessed your hand right, does that like mean my level's gone down to that?
Yes.
Oh, boo, boo.
Or as an expert player, am I supposed to be able to figure out how every type of person plays?
I will even give you clues as
Good
to
sign, bad sign.
Yeah. So there will be betting clues, of course, and I will give you some mental clues as well as to what I was thinking.
You're so smart on the big game.
Yeah, well, TV, the magic of television. I was playing in a $1, $2 game with several German tourists, one of which tended to open to $22. So
11 times the big blind?
That's correct. The old 11X. So
it sounds like the old 1-2 games at the boat.
Actually, did he go?
Indiana.
Did he like go quack quack in German too? Because there's another guy who like bets quackity quack. You don't know who I'm talking
Paul
about?
McGrill?
Paul McGrill. He'll bet always quack quack. That's his bet. 22.
Oh, really? I get it. I didn't realize that was his bet either. No, he did not say quack quack. I think really what it was is that they just didn't want to convert their money back to euros and see how little it was worth, so they just wanted to dump off all their American money because they had a flight literally hours later. So this fella, under the gun, raises to $22 in a 1-2 game. BJ, you're taking notes?
Hell yeah.
Look at this. He's a student of the game.
It folds around to me. I'm middle. I'm like 2 seats away. So what is that? Middle position?
All right.
We'll call that middle.
Early mid.
Yeah.
I call.
Folds around. One person
How much do you
folded.
have
2 people folded.
Right.
I have about 180 in chips.
Wait,
Before
this
you
is
call.
you said this is a cash game.
Before I call, that's right.
You have 180 in cash. This is like cash money.
Well, they are chips.
They are chips. Okay.
Okay.
I have $180
So you flat.
in chips. I flat. The man to my left, there's another fold. Then the man to his left calls. Then
Can you tell us by the you just put in 1/9 of your chip stack.
Barry,
Okay.
I didn't say critique Joe's play. I said, what does Joe have?
Did you ever think I'm probably in one of these shove or fold modes right now? The guy just bet more than 10% of my chips.
Okay. So listen,
And how much does $22 guy have behind?
he has me covered.
Okay.
By a ton or just by...
Well, it doesn't matter in a cash game, does it? If he has me covered by a ton.
Is it relevant? Is the Deutschmark strong against the dollar right now?
Well, it's a euro, and it's very strong against the dollar.
They don't
Yeah.
play. Okay.
Okay. Sorry. So 2 other callers besides you.
No, one caller.
One caller.
Then the person to his left shoves for 60
total.
Then the initial raiser flats. At this point, I decide I'm moving all in, and I'm going to gamble. I'm like, whatever, I'm going to have to hit. I can, there's a lot of money in there. Maybe I'll hit. I shove, and the man to my left calls. So it's a 4-way all in.
And then the other guy called.
And the guy who
The
opened
German guy, yeah.
also
who
And the guy
also
who
calls.
called you called and left how much behind?
Like 100.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
potential for a side
Well,
pot.
one of the problems, initially, if I can jump in, there are 2 things. Initially you think it's ace-queen on the high card side or 2 9s or 2 10s on the pair side because those are hands maybe you wanted to flat them and not shove, and now, you're kind of have no choice but to get it in. The problem is those are such obvious guesses.
Right.
And you told us before the quiz
Well, I'm going to tell you what.
Exactly.
You told us before
I'm
the
going
quiz
to tell you how
that nobody guessed what I had.
He
But
can't have an
I'm
ace
going to
in
give you
there.
even more information.
Okay.
Yeah.
The board runs out. Ace, queen, queen, jack, 9.
And you?
I scoop the entire pot.
Okay.
Ace, queen, queen,
So
jack,
again,
9.
it brings in the ace, queen, and the 2 9s right away. Because both of those.
Those
have
are
a
obvious
legit-
guesses, and I already told you that people haven't guessed the,
But the
whole.
fact that
Oh my
people
God,
haven't
did you shoot
guessed.
me with Queen Jack?
Is that your guess?
No, my guess.
Okay, John Vuong is guessing Jack 9. He's locked in at Jack 9. Jessica Wellman,
I'm going to go Queen Jack.
she says Queen Jack.
My guess is because nobody guessed it, and because it's a story
Right.
that you had 2 8s and they somehow held up.
Barry guesses 2 8s.
I was leaning towards that or 2 10s, so I'll go 2 10s. Although I think somebody would have guessed it. then,
BJ
but I'll
says
say
2 10s. I scoop the entire pot with 2 5s.
Actually, I even.
Damn it! I hate you that you told me
Wait,
the
wait,
board
wait,
because
wait.
in my head I was going to say pocket
But-
fives before you told me the board. I'm not even
but
kidding.
I wasn't far off, right? I was in
Barry's
the same-
really close.
Yeah, I'm in the same range.
Barry's the
I
closest.
hate that you told me the board.
reason I did- the
that
reason-
sucks. I had it.
The reason I didn't get all the way down to pocket 5s was because you're such a nit.
Really?
What did everyone else have?
I have no idea. Everyone mucked. I'm convinced someone had to muck a winner, like because
I'm thinking that's likely.
someone mucked a king. There's at worst someone mucked a king.
Yeah.
No one showed. I almost mucked.
The nice thing about
King
those.
doesn't win anything.
Yeah.
No, the king's a straight, right?
No.
Oh, King 10.
10.
King 10 is a straight.
Oh, King
but
10's a
King
straight.
something else big beats you.
No, hold on a second. Maybe I got the board wrong because I feel like there was
Anything
a
that's
king
not
would have made
king
a straight.
rag is a winner.
Of course you got the board wrong.
Oh,
wait a
I
second.
want to take it back. That's not
wait a
fair.
second.
Hey, let's do
Oh,
it again
stop
so
it.
I can guess pocket
wait a-
fives.
Ace, queen,
Oh, wait a second. There was a 5 up there. I forgot.
Ace, queen, queen, jack 10. I'm sorry, was the board. Ace, queen, queen, jack 10.
Yes, I
Oh, that still doesn't
definitely
change
wouldn't
mine.
have guessed pocket 10s.
Okay, so now that takes out.
But that makes it much clearer because we know the other people missed it.
Okay, in
so-
that case, I guess pocket 5s. Now
Yeah,
you
nice
change
one, Barry. You win. So yeah, and so I almost
probably
mucked.
would've just gone
I go,
nines.
all right. Well, I guess I completely missed, and I go to throw my hand in. I go, all I have is 2 5s. Goes muck, 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 and then one guy thought he was slow rolling me, and then just slides his hand to the
That's
dealer.
one of those times where you say, I don't need to see anyone's hand.
Nobody say a single word. Nobody say, "Oh, really? Would you have?"
You
Yeah, I
don't,
know.
like
Shut up,
ask, you
shut
don't
up.
ask, like, I want to see that folded
Yeah,
in.
no,
Right.
You don't want him tabling like 2 kings and being like, oh shit.
Or where he says, yeah, I only had 9-8.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I just had 9 high. Yeah. that
Oh wait,
doesn't
I
work.
guess that is a higher pair.
It's a straight against
Yeah.
the board again.
So anyway,
Oh, the new
that's
board.
probably
Yeah, the
the most amazing hand that I've ever won. I don't know how I pulled it off, but
Nicely done.
thank you very much.
This is the pinnacle of your poker career.
It
isn't
really is. I actually, the only 2 times I sat down several times, but it was a table full of friends, and I don't like. Oh, I accidentally angle shot the pants off this lady. I felt so bad about it. There was this old lady sitting next to me, an old Asian woman wearing a Mark Chestnut hat and a Mark Chestnut belt buckle, who was a country music star.
Okay, that
I'm
was my
glad,
next
glad you told
question.
me. Yeah, right.
We were kind of needling each other a little
Mark
bit.
Chestnut, yeah.
We were kind of needling each other a little bit, and this hand, I had flopped a gut shot. She had raised, and she was a total nit, and I call with Queen Jack. She bets the flop, and I call with a gut shot. I make Broadway in the turn. She bets again on the turn, I call, and then on the river, she looks at me and she goes, "What do you want me to do?" And I said to her, "I want you to check."
I want you to bet fold.
Well, I wanted her to bet so I could raise her, and so I thought if I said check because we were needling each other that she would have just bet. But I said, I want you to check. And instead of checking or betting, she tables her hand and shows me king 10 for 2 pair.
Oh,
So as soon as she shows me 2 pair, I go, I bet. And they immediately call the floor. The floor man has to come over. And I'm like, I don't make a big deal. I'm like, there's
Where
really
is this at?
This is I can't say where.
Okay.
We shoot the big game in an undisclosed location.
Dick
so
Cheney's house.
I thought it
This
was
is actually a warehouse in the Nevada desert.
In Jimmy Fricky's garage, right?
That's right. It was Jimmy Fricky's garage. He's got this huge set, and he's weird. He lives in the poker spaceship. And so the floor man comes over and eventually rules that, yes, I can, in fact, bet. I never said I check. I was telling her I wanted her to check. And I bet so small. Like, I bet it was like $150 or something in the pot, and I bet 25. And then she called me, and I was like, I have the nuts. And I felt like I just sort of angle shot her a little bit by betting so small on the end, but I figured I should get something out of it.
Sounds like she angle shot herself a little bit.
Yeah, maybe that was it too. I don't know. but I played 2 nights for real, and then 2 nights with a table full of friends, and I can't. When I play with a table full of friends, I'm minimizing my wins and maximizing my losses because I don't try to.
What are you doing after the show?
Yeah, exactly. Let's go play, BJ.
Yeah.
So, but the 2 times I actually played, I had winning nights.
Let's
I
play
won.
up in BJ's room with the Joker.
Oh, there we go. That's a story for another night. On that note,
I don't drink much, but here I got
on
plenty
that
of alcohol
note,
for y'all.
we're going to call this an end of the first show here from LAPC. Remember, everyone, check out worldpokertour.com for the Jess and BJ show. When is that coming back? Is there one up
already
now?
back, and it's on Poker Road's front page right now.
Fantastic. We're hosting the Jess and BJ show. I'd like to thank our 2 guests today, Kara Scott and Joseph Chung. Thanks very much to you guys. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Jess. Thank you, BJ. Thank you, John Vuong.
Thanks, John B.
Who I told him we were going to do the show tomorrow by accident, and he flew and he changed his flight to come do the show tonight.
He's a trooper. What did you say about...
He's the MFing best. Thank you, John Vuong.
But actually, it's not as big a deal as you think. Didn't you already piss off those gallstones? No, he didn't.
Not yet. You still got the kidney stones.
Or kidney stones, sorry.
And thanks to everyone else traveling down the old Poker Road. Until next time, this is Joe Stapleton saying, always take the best of it.
I want to be your best friend. Eastside love is living on the west end. Knock out the ball, you better come